Question number 4, Alastair Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Trade and asks, what progress has the government made in opening up export markets for our regional economies?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Trade, good progress, just like the Black Caps this afternoon, Mr. Speaker.
So far, so good.
Yesterday, the New Zealand-Korea Free Trade Agreement was signed in Seoul, Korea, by our Minister of Trade and his Korean counterpart. Upon ratification, the FTA will ensure that nearly half of New Zealand's exports to Korea will be immediately tariff-free and then progressively remove tariffs on 98% of total exports. The impact of tariffs is twofold. New Zealand exporters pay a high cost in tariffs, and tariffs also substantially reduce the volume of our exports into markets. Both of these problems combine to reduce the availability and competitiveness of New Zealand products. Tariff removal is therefore a key focus of the business growth agenda target to grow our exports, and comprehensive free trade agreements like the Korean FTA and others are an important part of that.
Supplementary question, Alastair Scott.
To the Minister, how do free trade agreements like the one signed with Korea yesterday help grow regional economies like, for example, Northland?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Trade, most of our regional economies rely strongly on the performance of the primary sector, and it's the primary sector that has most to gain by the removal or reduction of heavy tariffs. If you look specifically at Northland, Northland is the second largest supplier of avocados to Korea from New Zealand, with the Northern region responsible to 37% of them. The Korean FTA will eliminate the 30% tariff on the import of avocados into Korea. Kiwi fruit is another important industry in Northland. New Zealand exports a lot of kiwi fruit to Korea. The tariff is 45%, Mr. Speaker. Under the Korean FTA, the tariff on kiwi fruit exports will be reduced to zero over the next 5 years, Mr. Speaker. And so it goes on with forestry, dairy and so on. Free trade agreements like the one with Korea are critically important for improving growth in places like Northland, as they provide more jobs, higher wages and opportunities for young people.
Supplementary question, Richard Prosser.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, does the Minister believe that the Korean Free Trade Agreement will actually be of any benefit to the dairying economy of the Northland region, when it will take 10 years to reach a final tariff-free milk powder quota of just 2,000 tonnes, 0.13% of our current exports, with anything over that amount permanently subject to a tariff of 176%?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Trade, I do believe it will, because in a number of key tariff lines, great progress has been made. For example, cheddar cheese, we have got an equivalent deal to the US, and I think also a better deal than Australia, and that's very important for competition in Korea. If you look at infant formula, and if you look at other butter, for example, all of those higher value products have got very good tariff elimination, and if the member suggesting that's not a good thing for Northland, I'd be very surprised indeed.
Supplementary question, Alastair Scott.
So what support has he seen for the Korea Free Trade Agreement and for reducing costs on the New Zealand's primary sector?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Trade, the support for the Korean FTA, particularly from the primary sector, has been very positive. As I said, the Korean FTA eliminates the 40% tariff on beef, the 22.5% tariff on sheep meat, the 45% tariff on kiwi fruit, the 30% tariff on avocados, and the 89% tariff on butter. Despite this, I've also seen a curious media report that the Korean FTA does, and I quote, no favours to New Zealand farmers. There is also, in fact, draft legislation before this House shortly, which would have the effect of torpedoing the Korean FTA and a number of other trade agreements we're currently negotiating. Mr. Speaker, the origin of that comment and that legislation, and the person who wants to kill off jobs and growth in the Northern electorate, is the same Winston Peters who's standing for the by-election.
Order. Order. Supplementary question, Richard Prosser.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, is the Minister satisfied with the terms negotiated under the Korea Free Trade Agreement, when the tariff on New Zealand beef under this agreement will be 40%, but the tariff imposed by the Koreans on American beef is just 32%?
Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, the tariffs under this agreement, on behalf of the Minister of Trade, are declining across a whole range of areas, as I just detailed in my previous answer, including in the areas of sheep meat and beef. It eliminates the 40% tariff on beef, and these are good things for New Zealand primary sector. And for the member and his colleagues to suggest that it is not beneficial suggests that they are literally not focused on what's important to New Zealand farmers and, frankly, Northland farmers.
Question number 5, Dennis